Hey, and welcome to another episode of Pixel Sift. My name is Gianni, and as always, joining me into the studio today are Scott and Mitch.
Hey, hey.
Yeah, I was born live.
Yeah.
Born live, ready to go. We've got James as well, making the video work. And also joining us live today, we are joined over Skype via the magic of internet technology by the founder of Giant Margarita, Ian Lewis, and developer Adam Zulkifly. Ian and Adam are here to talk about their game, Party Golf.
Hi.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us today, guys. Very good to have you joining us.
Always good.
Always a pleasure.
We love making new
Super
friends.
excited to be here.
All right, yeah, we'll also be talking about the online grey market game key sales. There's some shady business going on down in that neck of the woods.
And lastly, we'll take a look at how getting yourself out of game media circles can enhance your enjoyment of the game when you finally get your hands on it.
And that's what's coming up today on episode 36 of Pixel Sift. Let's jump into it.
Pixel Sieve!
It's not Pixel Sieve, it's Pixel Sift.
Pixel Sieve!
So yeah, with services like Humble Bundle making it easier to obtain PC games, like more gamers are finding themselves with, PC keys for days. And they don't really know what to do with them. So thankfully, there's a service known as G2A, a sort of eBay for game keys. This is allowing people to sell their game keys surplus, but there might be some funny business going on in the background as well.
So the whole thing about eBay with, the way that it works is that it is a system that basically facilitates the transfer of money effectively, right? Yep. That's what it does. And G2A has a very similar system. And then they have people who have maybe purchased bundles and have picked up extra keys that they don't need anymore or have got duplicates of and they can't redeem more than one of them to their Steam account, can then go and sell their accounts, their keys on to other people.
So this is kind of touching on the transfer of license almost.
It is. It's an interesting sort of situation where we, previously have got these license agreements where something through like Steam, for example, where people will purchase a license in perpetuity but there's no way to trade it. Now they've got sort of slightly different ways. And this is sort of an evolution of the way that this bundle model has kind of started to work, in that you have kind of pushed the cost down and made things more affordable and more accessible for people, which is always a great thing. But then you have, of course, as soon as there's any money in any particular things, there's people who come in and they try to exploit the system.
Basically.
Now, Alex, who's the CEO, Alex Nichiporchik is CEO of Tiny Build, and he has just come out recently and said that G2A sort of facilitated the loss of about I guess not the loss really, but the $450,000 worth of full retail sales of their games sold through this platform. And one of the big things about this was people are out there purchasing these games using banks of credit cards that they purchased off the dark web, and as soon as the cards get cancelled and the chargebacks occur, the people who originally sold the original legitimate key are getting hit, and people who are purchasing these keys at the end of the day are also getting hit because their keys are getting revoked.
So this is an interesting case of the developer not actually suffering, right? Because they're actually getting money, right?
Well, the developer does suffer because they don't actually make that sale. They get no money in the end because the money that was legitimately sold, the key that may have been legitimately sold through any of these other bundles, is now being charged back. So the credit card companies that originally did that now get their money back. I'm curious to think what you have to say about this, Ian and Adam, what you feel about this sort of situation. I know you were having a little bit of a chat about this before we jumped on the air.
I wasn't really aware that these reselling services existed before this broke a couple of days ago. From the perspective of a developer, about to be putting our first game out on PlayStation 4 and considering, the avenues for our keys being able to get out there once we also put that game on Steam, it certainly gives us pause as to whether or not being involved in something like the Humble Bundle or something like that will actually end up leading to there being a glut of keys of our game out there for this kind of reselling. Simply because of the ease of people doing this kind of credit card fraud, if they've got availability of credit cards to begin with. I certainly understand the urge for people to want to be able to sell keys they don't want, sell secondhand games. I think there's a lot of parallels between this and selling games back to EB Games or GameStop or whatever. And also a lot of parallels here with ticket resellers. So a lot of the things that people get pretty upset with companies like Ticketmaster and things like that about. So I haven't really had much time to digest how I really feel about where I land on this. But It's complicated.
It is
sure.
complicated.
Yeah, it's so deep. I think that's the issue with it.
It's interesting you pull up the whole ticket sellers thing, and scalping, of course, has obviously been a big problem for people purchasing tickets in the past, and that's where they actually jack up the price to, the maximum price they possibly can, so they can get as much from the demand of people. But it's with this model here, they've kind of pushed the price as low as they can because the price is basically the determining factor, and you actually
also they have a time limit because they have until these credit cards get cancelled, right?
That's right, pretty much. I mean, not all of them, of course, as we mentioned, were not all, fraudulently purchased. There are people out there who are legitimately selling their keys. But, there is a situation where maybe they do need to implement something like the ticket system where, some of these big ticket companies who are obviously not the most popular companies in the world, but they have got systems which allow people to resell their tickets. They take a bit of a commission off that, and they make sure that the people who are, not scalping these tickets, that they actually have to go through this particular system in order to redo it.
Surely there's some kind of anti-fraud system or service that they can use through, say with Ubisoft, because this problem goes back to almost a year ago with the headlines of when Ubisoft revoked all those keys that were purchased through Origin.
Mm-hmm.
Surely they need to implement something into their Origin marketplace that can pick up when bulk purchases are made and, just strange purchases.
Well, one of the criticisms they say is that someone like Ubisoft or EA, for example, may have the, the fraud protection and all of this stuff. It requires a lot of people and it requires money and it requires time to sort of itemize each individual thing. But if you're a small developer, that's time that's taken out of doing QA, that's time taken out of customer support. If you have to dig through every transaction to find out which ones, and they said a lot of the ones that they sell, Alex from Tiny Build said this as well, was there are legit keys in amongst these bad batches. So there are people who are taking things from a legit source and then refunneling.
Are these... It's interesting that does G2A have any stake? Like, do they even care whether this happens or not? Because they're just the facilitator, right?
Well, it's money, really. That's what it comes down to. They're taking a percentage cut of every sale that goes through. So they want to encourage as many people to sell as much as possible and, not try to do as much to stand in the way of that. I mean,
true.
Some would argue they have a responsibility. And, for example, if G2A operated in Australia, they would have Australian consumer law in which to provide by. And I guess technically if you're within Australia and you're purchasing from a site like G2A, you have actually got protections inbuilt, but, they don't really sort of apply. They do, but they don't.
See, that's it. G2A and then other sites as well. They're not the only ones in this kind of secondary marketplace. Kinguin are another one.
Mm-hmm.
They need to take some responsibility for their sellers that are doing the wrong on their sites as well. There was... From that article that Tiny Build kind of put up, it felt like G2A were kind of handballing with the responsibility of everything. It was like, it's on everybody to kind of smarten up the whole industry.
Because they don't get hurt by the chargebacks, do they? Because the chargebacks happen for the original sale of the keys.
That's right.
Exactly.
The resale, they just get to keep their end, and it's the consumer who's had their key revoked along that chain that ends up actually being the one that feels the brunt of that.
The middleman kind of misses out on all the punishment, really, and they kind of have this issue. I'm wondering, how are you thinking about distributing, the release when you bring Party Golf out? Are you thinking about this key model of having it out on Steam? Or I know you're coming to the PlayStation 4 as well, but, has this given you some thought about what you might do?
It's just given us a thing to be concerned about, not what we would do and in response to it. So... as I said, I haven't had much time to process this concept, and it's a very new area for us. So, the idea that we might have to be concerned about being worried about fraud at some point will be a little bit we don't have the facilities to be able to do that at all. We certainly have no skill in being able to think how we would do that.
I still believe in the idea that on Steam, especially if developers are charging what they feel to be reasonable prices, and the consumers are seeing that as a reasonable price, that majority, or at least enough consumers, will choose to buy something at full price to support the developers, because there's very much more of a concept of these people are small, these people need all the help that they can get. So long as you're not charging AAA prices for indie grade games, I have a feeling that this doesn't impact as heavily. That's not to say that this won't become a bigger issue as this becomes a more prevalent practice. But as of right now, it feels like so long as you responsibly and reasonably price your games, you should come out all right as the positive way of looking at it.
It's all very complex and difficult ground to sort of break through, I guess. We don't really know where this is all going to land until it all kind of comes out in the wash. So let's jump into our next topic and we'll have a chat to Adam and Ian about their game, Party Golf.
Pixel Sift. Pixel Sift. No, seriously, Pixel Sift. No, seriously.
Pixel Sift.
Joining us on the line, as you may have heard from the beginning, we have got Adam and Ian from Giant Margarita. They have made a brand new game that is going to be coming out very soon called Party Golf. Guys, could you explain to us a little bit about what the game is and what was sort of the inspiration behind making this game?
The inspiration behind making the game was mostly that I was a big fan of a mobile game called Desert Golfing. Have you heard of it?
No,
Yep.
I haven't. Tell us a little bit about that as well. And why did it kind of, light the fire of inspiration in your mind?
Well, it's very strange because the game we've ended up with isn't that close to Desert Golfing, although it might physically look like it. But the Desert Golfing is a side view golf game where you you have a hole that you aim for, and then you get another. As soon as you get it in there, the level scrolls over and you get another hole, and you can shoot forever. You can just keep playing this, and it's all procedurally generated, and it goes on infinitely. We saw that idea, but at the same time we were playing Towerfall, and we thought to ourselves through some process, which is very hard to go back to, of what if we took that idea of having this simple 2D golf game and just crammed in as much hectic multiplayer fun as we could. And we ended up with something that immediately was fun as soon as we got those systems working, and have just expanded upon that with customization.
What's the trick to making a fun party game? What do you need to concentrate on when you want to make something that's nice and easy for people to just who maybe never have played your game before, maybe are over at a friend's house, and what do you do to kind of get them in quickly and get them hooked?
What you want is something that is immediately satisfying. So as soon as you do your first gameplay action, you want to get a good feeling to the player out of that. So physics-based games are in a great position to be able to do that, because just the very act of hitting a ball, having it bounce around this terrain, possibly actually getting you really close to the hole or even getting a hole-in-one on the first go is a super exciting thing for us to actually watch as players. So we actually have a little metric that we use when we've shown this game at festivals and at PAX last year, which is the seconds to shouting metric. So from the very first moment that people start playing the game to the point that they're actually getting really involved. And for us, that's somewhere between 30 to 60 seconds, which we're really proud of.
That's awesome.
Is that a metric you're going to put out there on your posters and everything? We've got that sitting there. Do you think there's something inherently enjoyable about having sort of either a funny or a realistic physics engine?
Yeah, I do. I think that if you watch little kids playing around, they can play in a sand pit for what looks like the rest of their lives, just playing with sand, making things, knocking it down, piling stuff up. Human beings just seem really wired to find those kinds of interactions really, really interesting. And so starting with that as a base means that we can layer all these other fun experiences on top of that very basic core enjoyable activity.
Is it difficult to not layer too much on top of that when you're building those in? If you have to, I know when you're building these things out, there's a process that you go through, and there can be an issue where you can creep too much into other areas. Do you have some rule that you try to focus on so you don't add too much?
For party golf in particular, that's really difficult. It's a very good question because we're trying to make the game as customizable as possible. You can change every single part of the game that we can think about giving you access to be able to change things from the balls that you're actually using to play golf with to the way that the terrain is generated to the actual rules of the game. So whether or not it's a fast-paced race to the hole, which is our default mode, or whether it's the slower-paced turn-based thing that normal golf would have, or just something entirely different, like trying to get into the hole with the smallest number of shots, but take the longest way to get there. So you've got people crazily bouncing all around the screen as much as possible, but still trying to use as few shots as possible. So for us, the concept of feature creep is something that we talk about all the time, but a guiding concept for us is that we're not just making an individual thing that doesn't interact with everything else in the game. Every feature we've tried to put in there tends to open up a whole bunch of different other options and different ways to play the game. A lot of our most popular game modes are things that players that have played our game have invented themselves while we've been out there testing and showing this off at festivals. People just make stuff up, combine all our things together, and we go, why didn't we think of that? That's an awesome idea. So trying to provide, to use a fancy academic word, because I'm a not fancy academic, like trying to provide as many orthogonal opportunities as possible for people to combine things together.
Would you guys be open to, let's say, like have the fans create, on the players create custom game modes and then like maybe creating a leaderboard to see which ones are the best?
We're very open to the idea of that. It's a difficult thing to do as such a tiny studio that we have to provide the infrastructure. We're looking at ways that kind of thing will be possible in our game, because we understand that once you've made something amazing like that, you want to show other people. We're certainly providing the facility for you to create your own game modes internally and save them all for future use. When we go back and play games like Towerfall, we've just got Towerfall only provides a few places to save those, but we play our own custom game modes every single time we play Towerfall. We're trying to provide that kind of feel for people when they play party golf.
Now, Ian, I'd just like to ask a little bit about Giant Margarita itself. It seems to be made up of entirely PhD candidates of your own curation. It seems like you've created your own kind of incubator down there at the University of Tasmania, huh?
That's definitely what we've tried to go for. Tasmania is right on the cusp of getting a games industry. We've got people doing a little bit of stuff down here, but we were very dispersed. Nobody really knew what anybody else was doing in Tasmania. And so what we've tried to do is provide a beacon of an example of how to do that kind of stuff in Tasmania. So we've worked with people that we knew. So yes, me and a bunch of PhD students and another lecturer to create this game. And we originally made it in a game jam because we really don't have that much time. So this has all been done outside of our other full-time work. And through that process, we've also made a little Tasmanian Game Development Society. I say little, we've got a couple of hundred members now. And we're trying to take our experiences going through things like doing a Kickstarter, going to PAX, getting greenlit, and try and teach everybody else how to do those as well.
And you guys have just secured the support of Screen Tasmania as well for for your game. What's been the process of sort of going through that?
This is a very new thing for them as well as for us. So we're one of the first couple of companies that they have done any funding for games. So they've been really, really helpful going through that process because they really want to get into helping the Tasmanian industry. So it was somewhat of an unwieldy process because it's not geared towards game companies. So, lots of stuff about doing stuff for not traditional screen-based media, but not games. So it was a pretty sharp learning curve for us there. I've used that term wrong, but yeah, very difficult learning curve for us. But nonetheless, they helped us through every part of that process and really were just unbelievably helpful of getting that up. And that's going to really help us actually get party golf out there to people.
And really help future game developers in Tasmania as well, because that means that they now have an avenue to go, hey, my game is interesting. Would you please give me some money so that I can keep developing it?
Yeah,
we were. They actually had a strategy planning meeting for the future of Screen Tas recently, and we had people from Giant Margarita there. We had a local journalist called Jason Imms was there, and some people from another company called Secret Lab, and a couple of people who came down from Melbourne just to sit in on that as well. And so they said they were incredibly happy to have us there and helping them guide their future direction, which is great for us and hopefully great for other people.
Well, look, the game's going to be out very soon. You guys are currently working on the PC version and the PlayStation 4 version of the game. If people want to check out a bit more about the game, where should they head to and where should they go to and find some more information?
Go to our website for Party Golf, partygolfgame.com. We'll have gameplay videos on there for you to look at. There's reviews of the version that we were having at PAX last year as well, and there's a few Let's Play videos out there. The game's come a long way since a lot of that media was created, but you should still be able to get a feel for what the game is, that crazy, fast-paced action, the multiplayer couch co-op. Saying every buzzword I can think of right now.
Get them all in there. List
we
them
like
off.
buzzwords here.
Great. Well, look, we might jump into our next topic right now.
You're listening to Pixel Sift. Or you might be watching Pixel Sift on Twitch. Pixel Sift.
Now, do you spend a lot of time watching game reveals and trailers, trawling the internet for an extra skerrick of information about your next favourite game? Something that might make you wow in excitement just one more time?
Checking out Let's Plays of Party Golf online.
Exactly. Yeah, me too. But yeah, have you ever considered just not watching the trailers, not watching the gameplay footage over and over again until you feel like you've actually played it through and through?
I like how we say this right after plugging the website, the Party Golf.
Look, it's about watching, not like overdoing it.
Yeah.
So our last topic of today will be looking into exactly that, unplugging from the pre-launch hype media bandwagon in order to increase game enjoyability. Now, at the moment, I've been a generation behind with my PS3 for a little while, so I've been kind of living vicariously through all these PS4 streamers and whatever with new games. So at the moment, I'm all about what I'm talking about, not doing at the moment. And I don't consider it because, I don't want to fall behind and not see it.
But do you ruin the experience by getting involved in that if you pick up the game now?
Absolutely. Like, I don't feel like I need to play a lot of games now, which is sad because I know I've kind of ruined a part of what makes, playing a new game so great.
So you're a direct result of this.
Yeah, and that's why I see so much merit in this because I'm like, wow, I really need to,
Kind of difficult though when you make a
doing
weekly video games podcast to disconnect from games media though.
I know.
Slight issue. Now, Ian, I know this is a topic that's very close to your heart. You said that you had a film that you mentioned where you thought that the whole thing was kind of ruined by some of this sort of pre-release PR content. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was a long time ago where I first noticed this effect because it was Men in Black 1, which is not a particularly fantastic film, but I'd seen...
Oh, come on.
Oh, sorry. I know. They get worse as time goes by.
You don't like Tommy Lee Jones?
It's terrible. What's that?
You don't like Tommy Lee Jones?
I do like Tommy Lee Jones. I like hearing how grumpy he is and everything he does, apparently. All those weird Japanese ads he's done for whatever... Boss Coffee, yeah. So... Every single funny moment in that film almost was in the preview, and I'd seen the preview like 10 times just by going to the movies before I saw the film, and so the impact of the film had been hugely decreased for me. So now I try and avoid, from that point, I tried to avoid all movie advertising. I'd tend to watch whatever the smallest fraction of a preview was until I was like, that seems interesting to me, and then entirely ignore all other reference to it. And I've started doing the same thing with games. Just recently played Uncharted 4 and had seen not a single bit of the story trailers or anything leading up to that. I saw the E3 2015, or I think that's right, their tech demo, which, it really is a teaser that doesn't actually ruin anything of the game, and that's all I watched. Even at the point where I was at GDC this year and I went to a session on the technical art of Uncharted, and he started it off by showing the story trailer. I was like, no! I had to cover my eyes and make crazy sounds so I couldn't actually see it.
What do you think of let's say a game like Overwatch releases maybe supplementary content on their YouTube channel, like just those cartoon shorts? Do you think they are similar?
Adam has watched a lot of this. So I'm going to let him field this question.
The shorts are, I think, completely separate in this case because the shorts are basically the only story that you overtly get with Overwatch, at least. Overwatch is a very different beast, in my opinion, with this topic because... So as a personal thing, I felt like the first time I put hands to keyboard for Overwatch, I already had 20 hours of gameplay under my belt at that point because I'd watched so much of it. But I don't feel like that took away from the experience because it made me then I was then able to go, I saw someone do this, now I want to try it, and then you realize how hard it is, what the actual physicalities of trying to pull off that maneuver is with this hero, and trying to work that around the enemy team, going, I saw someone do this to counter this tactic, maybe I can do that. So I feel like with Overwatch at least, all of that added to the game once you get your hands on it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how much of that people would have found out if there weren't a lot of streamers, a lot of YouTubers who are playing hundreds of hours of these and putting up just the highlights to show you this is what's possible in this game. Who knows? Maybe a lot of people would have stopped playing and just written it off as, yeah, it's really good, but it's kind of shallow. And it's obviously not. There's a lot of deep mechanics in it.
I wonder with a game like Overwatch, or I guess probably even something like Party Golf as well, where the experience is what you have with everyone else that you're playing the game, and people are making up their own story, and this other stuff is almost,
I absolutely agree.
in a way, almost sort of supplementary. You could get away with not watching any of the shorts and still have a great time playing something like Overwatch. But a game, for example, as you mentioned, Ian, with Uncharted 4, which is... the story is the key part of it, and something like Last of Us, another Naughty Dog title as well. The gameplay is such a key part of, the story is such a key part of that. The gameplay is kind of the vehicle in which the story is delivered. I know that, so Ryan Green, he's one of the developers from the game That Dragon Cancer, actually came out and said that Let's Plays... people who are actually playing through the game on Twitch and online are actually sort of diminishing the experience of his game, but also diminishing the value of his product that he's selling, because people will then watch the whole Let's Play instead, and it should be something more of a personal experience, and a bit like watching a film, for example. You wouldn't, rely on someone completely just to sort of, tell you the film. You'd want to go and experience in person. So
that Dragon Cancer is primarily a narrative. Instead of
yeah. See, there's certain games that just don't work with that kind of thing because you reveal too much. You reveal to the point where you've lost the point of the game, really. But trailers are more unpopular than ever. Like with all the trailers, you're talking Gears of War, Battlefield, Uncharted 4, Destiny. They all this is just YouTube as well. That plays are up in the 9 millions for all of those at least. Battlefield 1, the reveal one for that was actually over 41 million views, which is ridiculous. The hunger for this kind of pre-launch hype media is high.
One of the interesting things that I think people probably, and it's probably difficult for us as well, because obviously we take a lot of this on board and we look at this very regularly every day, but the vast majority of customers for these large products launches are not people who are actually going to be looking at every gaming website every time that comes out. They might glance at it, they might see it pop up on their Facebook feed, but they're not people out there going and watching. So, for example, you said 41 million views.
For Battlefield 1, that was not the trailer, but the actual reveal. Yeah 41 million. Over.
Right, so probably those are quite a few of duplicates, people watching them again, but their sales are going to be more than that if anything of the other games are to go by. They're selling, millions and millions of copies on top of that. And, is it difficult to see, I guess, the forest for the trees, and that we are kind of in it, so we can't see that the vast majority of people maybe aren't doing this particular thing, and they can come in fresh. And
I mean, I wouldn't be too concerned until it actually starts affecting the way games are made, and the only thing I've seen of this was in 2013 when Nintendo announced that they were not going to put a story mode or cutscenes into the new Super Smash Bros. And their rationale for that was that as soon as we do that, people are just going to play it, upload it online, and the value of the work we put into these cutscenes and story mode is just going to be diminished.
Yeah.
And so they just didn't do it.
And storyline used to be a reward, and there used to be sort of branching storylines as a reward for doing the best endings of particular games.
And cutscenes were a reward.
And now that has to be removed as a gameplay mechanic, because people are just going to go on YouTube and watch what the best ending is without doing it, and it sort of diminishes the value of I guess, the expression of doing it as well.
Not to bring up another Blizzard game, but I believe some versions of StarCraft come with a Blu-ray or DVD of the cutscenes on it that you can just watch.
Really? Yeah. I mean, they do have phenomenal...
and they're awesome, but that's a thing that it's not necessarily a reward anymore, but I guess that's a pretty cool way of...
Have games started using that PlayStation 4 feature where they don't let the recording of those things happen?
Yeah.
By default. So to try and keep the value of those things. I normally find that quite annoying when that happens in games, because it puts up a little toast saying recording is turned off here, and it distracts you from the cutscene.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that's a thing that games like Super Smash Bros. Could use.
Definitely something very, very interesting to think about. There's plenty of more examples of this sort of stuff, and it's one of these things where it's totally in the eye of the beholder, really. You're going to kind of take away from what you want. I'm personally of someone who, as you said, Ian, avoiding trailers. I only watch movie trailers at the movies. I don't go online to watch them, because I feel like by the end of the hype cycle, you've known everything you possibly can out of a particular film. So.
I see the merit in this, and I'm going to try and change my ways.
But yeah,
I will watch every trailer for everything ever.
Can I say something real quick here?
Sure, go for it.
It's very important to remember who the hype train is for. The hype train is for the developers to get more people on. If you've already decided that you want to play this game or watch this movie, you gain almost nothing by watching those trailers at that point.
That is spot on.
Very well put. Very well. And with that,
So go watch the party golf ones because
Yeah.
you haven't decided if you want the game yet.
Well, I've already decided that I want it.
we're
So.
going to jump
Hey!
There we go. Ian and Adam, thank you very much for joining us for this episode of Pixel Sift. It's been great to hear from you and hear your thoughts on all these topics.
It's been great being here. Thanks for letting us have this opportunity to talk about all these things that drive us crazy.
It's a great way to spend an afternoon, I have to say.
Yeah, great. That's all we've got time for today. So if you want to watch this episode again, you can head to our website, which is www.pixelsift.com.au, where we'll have the audio version if you want to listen to it in the car, or we'll have the video version going up a bit later as well.
There's a little trailer coming out for the next episode.
That's right, yeah.
No.
Don't watch all the trailers of the next video. We do put one every week. I guess we do.
Unless
don't
we haven't convinced you.
Yeah, that's right. Scott, if people want to find us on social media, where should they head to?
People, you can find us at facebook.com/pixelsift, twitter.com/pixelsift, twitch.tv/pixelsift, and youtube.com/pixelsiftau.
And Mitch, our older episodes
Website, iTunes, Pocket Casts,
Google Play.
and Google Play if you're in America. You can't view it here in Australia for some reason.
Yep.
Email me about that, Google.
Soz.
Stitcher, TuneIn, everything you can get audio on, that's where we are. Thanks for joining us. We will see you guys again this time next week.
Bye. Thank you.
Peace out.
Bye-bye.
Bye.